I didn't realize the moment my life changed was the same moment he tried to make me feel small. It didn't start with cheating. It didn't even start with lies. It started with a sentence. "I think you've been gaining weight, and it's affecting how attracted I am to you." He said it casually, like he was commenting on the weather. And for a second, I just stared at him. Because we were lying in bed. Because it was late. Because I had driven over an hour just to see him. Because just minutes before that, he had no problem touching me. But now suddenly, I was the problem. I slowly sat up, pulling the sheet around me, not out of shame, but distance. "Okay," I said calmly. "So what do you want to do about it?" He blinked. Not expecting that. Not expecting me to ask him for a solution. "Well, I mean, maybe you could try to lose some weight." There it was. Not concern. Not care. Not love. Just preference. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I'm not doing that." Silence filled the room. And I could see it on his face. He thought I'd break. He thought I'd apologize. He thought I'd shrink myself just enough to keep him comfortable. But I didn't. Instead, I laid back down, turned away from him, and went to sleep. Looking back now, that was the first crack. Not in me. In him. We had been together for almost 3 years. We met in college, back when everything felt like fate. We were both planning to move across the country, and somehow ended up only an hour apart. It felt like destiny. He was smart, driven, a PhD student in animal sciences. I was working, figuring life out, building something real. And somehow, it worked. Or at least, I thought it did. I got along with his family. His sisters loved me. His younger brother treated me like I'd always been around. Even people in his program liked me. Funny enough, I fit into his world better than he did. And maybe that's where things started shifting. Because the more comfortable I became, the more distant he started to feel. At first, it was small things. He stopped wanting to go out. Started complaining about money more. Started acting like basic joy was a waste of time. But I ignored it. Because love makes you excuse things you normally wouldn't tolerate. Then came that conversation. And after that, something in me quietly changed. I didn't argue. I didn't fight. But I started watching. Listening. Noticing. 3 months later, he called me. Not to say he missed me. Not to make plans. But to end everything. "I think we should break up." Just like that. No emotion. No hesitation. Almost like he had rehearsed it. I leaned against the wall, phone pressed to my ear. "Okay, why?" There was a pause. And then he said something I'll never forget. "You don't really understand science, and I need someone I can connect with on that level." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insulting. "You're serious?" I asked. "Yes," he said confidently. "You just don't get it the way I need you to." That's when I knew. This wasn't the truth. It was an excuse. A weak one. "Try again," I said quietly. "What?" "The real reason." Silence. For a few seconds, I thought he might actually say it. But he didn't. Instead, he repeated the same thing. Like if he said it enough times, it would become believable. We ended the call. Just like that. 3 years, reduced to a bad explanation. But here's the thing about intuition. When something feels off, it usually is. A month later, he showed up at my place. Said he had some of my things. But I didn't let him leave without answers. I stood in front of him, arms crossed. No more excuses. Tell me the truth. He looked uncomfortable. Shifted his weight. Avoided eye contact. And then finally, he said it. There's someone else. And just like that, everything clicked. But what he said next, that's what changed everything. She's one of my students. I didn't scream right away. I didn't react instantly. Because my brain was still catching up to what my ears just heard. You're dating your student? I asked slowly. She's 19, he added. Like that made it better. Like that explained something. That's when the anger hit. Fast. Sharp. Uncontrollable. I told him to get out. My roommate stepped in and made it very clear. He wasn't welcome anymore. And just like that, he was gone. But the second the door closed, something unexpected happened. I laughed. Not a soft laugh. Not a happy one. But the kind that comes when everything suddenly makes sense. The weight comments. The distance. The random breakup reason. It was never about me. He wasn't losing attraction. He was trying to push me away. Because he didn't have the courage to be honest. And the girl? I had met her before. At one of his gatherings. Quiet. Young. And suddenly, everything connected. He didn't want me to change. He wanted me to leave. And that's when I realized something important. He thought he got away clean. He thought he could rewrite the story. Make me the problem. And walk into something new without consequences. He had no idea. He had just made the worst mistake of his life. Because I wasn't heartbroken. I was paying attention. And what I found next wasn't just betrayal. It was something much bigger. Something illegal. Something that could destroy everything he was building. And this time, I wasn't going to stay quiet. He thought the breakup was the end of the story. But for me, that was just the beginning. Because while he was busy replacing me, I was about to uncover something that would take everything from him. His career, his reputation, and the life he thought he had secured. The truth is, I didn't plan revenge right away. At least, not the kind you're probably thinking. I wasn't sitting in my room crying. I wasn't stalking his new relationship. I wasn't even angry all the time. No. I was quiet. And when a woman goes quiet like that, it usually means she's thinking. Because once the shock faded, something else took its place. Clarity. Everything started replaying in my head. Not emotionally. Logically. The late nights. The sudden distance. The way he stopped putting in effort. And most importantly, the way he tried to make me feel like I wasn't enough. That wasn't insecurity. That was strategy. A weak man's strategy. To make you walk away so he doesn't have to look like the villain. But here's where he made a mistake. He underestimated two things. How observant I was, how much I actually knew about his life. You see, I didn't just date him. I lived in his world on weekends. I saw everything. The house. The setup. The animals. All of it. And at the time, it all felt normal. Because he was a PhD student. Because he worked with animals. Because I trusted him. But now I was looking at everything differently. A few days after the breakup, I reached out to his roommates. Not for drama. Not for closure. Just respect. I sent a simple message. Hey, I just wanted to say thank you for always being kind to me. I know things ended, but I appreciated you guys. What I didn't expect was honesty. They replied. And not only did they know about the other girl, they were the reason he even told me. That stopped me for a second. He didn't come clean because he felt guilty. He came clean because he was cornered. And suddenly, he looked even smaller in my eyes. One of the roommates, let's call him Daniel, offered to help me pick up some of my stuff still at the house. But then he added something unexpected. Or, you could come up for the weekend. We'll go out. Have fun. You deserve that. Now, a part of me hesitated. Not because I was sad, but because I knew. If I went back into that house, it wouldn't just be about closure anymore. It would be something else. Still, I said yes. That weekend? It looked simple on the outside. But inside? Everything shifted. I arrived when he wasn't home. Daniel let me in. And for a moment, it felt like nothing had changed. Same house. Same smell. Same energy. But I wasn't the same girl who used to walk in there. This time, I was paying attention. Really paying attention. I walked through the living room slowly. Past the cages. Past the tanks. Past the setups I used to ignore. And that's when it hit me. Something wasn't right. Not emotionally. Not morally. Legally. I stopped in front of one enclosure. Then another. Then another. And suddenly, memories started connecting. Things he had said casually. Things I didn't question before. I don't want the government involved. It's just paperwork, not worth it. No one's going to check. At the time, it sounded like laziness. Now, it sounded like risk. Serious risk. I grabbed a camera. Not my phone, this was before everything lived in your pocket. A real camera. And I started documenting. One picture. Then another. Then another. Every cage. Every setup. Every detail. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I was calm. Focused. Precise. Because something inside me knew. This wasn't just getting back at him anymore. This was bigger. And the more I looked, the clearer it became. There were animals that shouldn't be there. Conditions that didn't look right. Things that didn't match what I thought I understood. And then, I saw it. The one thing that changed everything. An animal that didn't belong there. Not just ethically, but legally. I froze for a second. Because now, this wasn't just messy. This was dangerous. For him. For his career. For everything he was building. And in that moment, I had a choice. Walk away. Forget everything. Move on like nothing happened. Or, pay attention. I took the photo. Slowly. Carefully. Like I already knew. This would matter later. That night, we went out. Me and Daniel. Drinks. Music. Noise. On the outside, it looked like I was just having fun. Moving on. Letting go. But inside, I was already 5 steps ahead. We came back late. Not too late. Just enough. And as we walked in, I saw them. Him. And her. Sitting there like everything was normal. Like nothing had happened. Like I had already been erased. For a second, our eyes met. And I could see it on his face. Shock. Confusion. Maybe even irritation. Because in his mind, I wasn't supposed to come back like this. Not confident. Not smiling. Not unaffected. But I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Sometimes silence is louder than anything you could ever say. I walked past him. Like he didn't matter. And that hit him harder than any argument ever could. But what happened next? That was just the surface. Because the real damage had already begun. He thought seeing me walk back into that house was the hardest part. He thought the embarrassment, the tension, the silence, that was the consequence. He was wrong. Because while he was busy pretending everything was under control, I had already collected proof. And the moment I decided to use it, there would be no going back. People think revenge is loud, explosive, emotional, messy. But the most dangerous kind is quiet, calculated, and patient. That night, when I walked past him like he didn't exist, that wasn't revenge. That was just a preview. The real damage had already been set in motion the moment I picked up that camera. The next morning, I left early. No goodbye. No confrontation. No closure. Just silence. And as I drove away, I didn't feel sad. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I felt focused. Because now, I wasn't reacting. I was deciding. Back home, I didn't waste time. I got the photos developed. And when I finally held them in my hands, that's when it became real. Not assumptions. Not suspicions. Evidence. Clear. Undeniable. And more serious than I initially thought. I laid them out in front of me. One by one. Studying them. Not like a girlfriend, but like someone building a case. Because here's the thing about truth. When it's documented, it doesn't need exaggeration. It speaks for itself. And his truth was ugly. Illegal animals. Questionable conditions. Things that would raise questions, serious ones. At that point, I had everything I needed. But I still didn't act immediately. Because timing is everything. Instead, I made one phone call. Not to him. Not to his roommates. To someone who knew his world better than anyone. His advisor's circle. Specifically, someone who had always been kind to me. Someone who trusted me. Someone who would listen. I kept my voice calm. Measured. Careful. I just thought you should know. That's how I started. I didn't accuse. I didn't dramatize. I just told the truth. About the breakup. About the real reason. About the student. And then, I mentioned the animals. There was a pause on the other end of the line. A long one. Not disbelief. Not confusion. Concern. Because now, this wasn't relationship drama anymore. This was professional misconduct. And that changes everything. I didn't send the photos right away. I didn't need to. Because I knew something most people don't. When you place a seed in the right place, you don't need to force it to grow. You just wait. But I didn't stop there. Because one truth leads to another. And if everything is already unstable, all it takes is one push. So I made another move. This time, anonymous. I reached out to the appropriate authorities. The kind that deal with wildlife regulations, animal control, legal ownership, permits. I didn't exaggerate. Didn't lie. Didn't manipulate anything. I simply asked questions. What happens if someone has animals they're not supposed to? What if they didn't file proper documentation? What if there are multiple violations? And once I understood the process, I submitted what I had. Calmly. Clearly. Completely. Then, I waited. No drama. No follow-up. No panic. Just patience. Because at this point, it wasn't in my hands anymore. It was in the system. And systems don't care about feelings. They care about facts. Meanwhile, his life kept moving like nothing was wrong. He had no idea. No idea that every photo I took was now sitting in the hands of people whose job it is to investigate. No idea that questions were already being asked. No idea that the version of himself he tried to protect was already starting to crack. And the best part, I didn't have to confront him. I didn't have to argue. I didn't have to prove anything to him. Because soon, he wouldn't be dealing with me anymore. He'd be dealing with consequences. Real ones. The kind you can't charm your way out of. And while all of that was quietly building behind the scenes, something else started happening. His reputation was beginning to shift. Not because of me directly, but because truth has a way of spreading, especially when the right people already don't like you. And he had made sure of that. Because the more I learned, the more I realized I wasn't the only one who saw through him. I was just the one who connected everything. And once everything is connected, it's only a matter of time before it all falls apart. He thought he could control the narrative. He thought he could replace me, rewrite the story, and move on clean. But what he didn't know, the investigation had already started. People were already talking. And soon, they wouldn't be asking questions anymore. They'd be taking action. By the time it started, I already knew. Not because someone told me. Not because I was watching him. But because silence like that never lasts long. A few weeks had passed. No calls. No messages. No drama. On the surface, everything looked normal. But underneath, things were moving. And then one afternoon, my phone rang. It was Daniel. I picked up casually. But the second he spoke, I heard it. Excitement. Shock. Disbelief. They're here. I didn't ask who. I already knew. They've been here for hours, he continued. Officials. Asking questions. Going through everything. And just like that, it started. Not loud. Not chaotic. Systematic. They didn't come in angry. They didn't make a scene. They just did their job. Checking cages. Reviewing setups. Asking for documentation. And when answers didn't match, they kept digging. Because once you open one door, you don't stop there. You check everything. Daniel's voice dropped slightly. They're taking animals. I closed my eyes for a second. Not out of guilt, but realization. This wasn't a warning anymore. This was action. They already found something in the back, he added. Something serious. Of course they did. Because I made sure they knew where to look. And the worst part? He wasn't even there when it started. He had no control. No chance to prepare. No way to spin the situation. By the time he found out, it was already happening. Daniel told me his girlfriend, the same one he chose over everything, was there. Trying to answer questions. Trying to act like everything was fine. But she didn't know. She didn't understand what she was standing in. And in that moment, for the first time, I didn't feel anger toward her. Just distance. Because she wasn't the one who built this. He was. And now, he had to face it. Authorities came back with more than just questions. They came back with permission, access, control. They didn't just inspect. They cleared rooms, spaces, everything. And one by one, everything he had built was taken out. The animals, the setups, the operation. Gone. Not destroyed. Not harmed. Removed. Because rules don't bend for ego. And systems don't care about excuses. By the end of it, the house was quiet. Too quiet. And for the first time in a long time, he wasn't in control of his own world. But that was only the beginning. Because what happens in private eventually reaches public. Especially when your career depends on reputation. Word spread quickly. Not rumors. Not gossip. Facts. Questions started being asked in his program. About his conduct. About his choices. About the people he was involved with. And once those questions start, they don't stop. Because now it wasn't just about animals. It was about ethics. About boundaries. About someone in a position of authority. Crossing lines that should never be crossed. And institutions? Take that seriously. Very seriously. Funding? At risk. Position? At risk. Future? At risk. Everything he thought was secure started slipping. And the worst part for him? There was no single person to blame. No argument to win. No story to twist. Because everything happening was based on truth. Documented. Verified. And moving forward. Without him being able to stop it. Meanwhile, I stayed exactly where I was. Quiet. Calm. Unaffected on the outside. Because I didn't need to be loud. The consequences were speaking for me. And they were saying everything I never had to. Weeks later, I heard more. Funding pulled. Opportunities gone. Reputation damaged beyond repair in his circle. And suddenly, that confident voice, that ego, that certainty he had, gone. Replaced with something else. Reality. And here's the thing. I never lied. Not once. I didn't create anything. Didn't fake anything. Didn't manipulate anything. I just connected the truth to the right people and let it do what truth always does. Expose. He thought losing me was the worst thing that could happen. He thought replacing me meant he had already won. But what he didn't realize, that was the easiest part. Time has a way of doing something interesting. It doesn't just heal. It reveals. After everything happened, I didn't stay to watch the damage. I didn't check updates every day. I didn't ask for details. I didn't obsess over what he lost. Because I already knew one thing. When consequences are real, you don't need to monitor them. They follow. So I moved on. Not dramatically. Not in a look at me now way. Quietly. I built my life. Focused on myself. My career. My growth. And ironically, I ended up doing something he once said I couldn't. I stepped into his world. Not as a student. Not as someone trying to impress it. But as someone who understood how to translate it. I worked with professionals. Researchers. Institutions. helping them explain complex ideas to people who don't speak their language. The same thing he once used as a reason to leave me became my strength. And that wasn't revenge. That was evolution. Years passed. Then more years. His name barely crossed my mind. Occasionally, I'd hear small updates. He got married, had kids, changed directions. Nothing dramatic. Nothing worth holding on to. Because my life was already full. And then, after almost 2 decades, life did something unexpected. I was invited to speak at a university. A large one. Room full of students. Future professionals. I stood there. Confident. Grounded. Exactly where I was meant to be. And after the talk, while I was speaking to students, I heard a voice. "Hey, long time no see." Something about it felt familiar, but distant. I turned, and there he was. Older, softer, less certain. For a brief second, time paused, and I had a choice. Recognize him immediately, or pretend. So I smiled politely. "I'm sorry, have we met before?" The look on his face? Confusion. Disbelief. A small crack in whatever confidence he had left. "It's me, Jake." I tilted my head slightly, like I was searching my memory. And then, I let it land. "Oh, wow." Pause. Small smile. "I guess I forgot." Not angry. Not bitter. Just indifferent. And that hit harder than anything else ever could. Because anger means you still care. Indifference means you're free. He tried to step closer. Maybe to reconnect. Maybe to rewrite something. But I didn't give him that chance. "Nice seeing you," I said lightly. And then I turned and walked away. Just like that. No closure. No conversation. No second chance. Because he didn't deserve access to the version of me I became. But here's where the story doesn't end. Later that night, I was out with faculty members. Talking. Laughing. Relaxed. And his name came up again. Casually. "Oh, you know him?" one of them asked. I paused. Just for a second. And then I said something simple. "I knew him, a long time ago." They leaned in slightly. Curious. So I told them. Not emotionally. Not dramatically. Just truth. About his past. About his choices. About what happened. And the room shifted. Because once again, truth had reached the right place. I didn't push. Didn't insist. Didn't try to influence anything. I just said enough. And let them decide. A few weeks later, I got a call. Not from him. From someone who knew the system. They had looked into his background. Old records. Old complaints. Old consequences. Things he thought were buried. Were still there. And just like that. Another opportunity? Gone. Not because of me. Because of who he had always been. And in that moment, I realized something important. I never actually destroyed him. I just refused to protect him. I stopped being the person who overlooked things. Who stayed quiet. Who accepted disrespect. And once I stepped out of that role, everything he tried to hide became visible. That's the kind of revenge people don't talk about. The one where you don't become toxic. You don't lie. You don't manipulate. You just let truth do its job. And move on. Final rehook/closing. He thought the story ended when he replaced me. But it didn't. Because the moment he chose disrespect over honesty, he didn't just lose me. He lost control over how his story would be told. And the truth? It has a way of finding people. Exactly when it needs to. So if there's one thing to remember, if someone tries to make you feel like you're not enough, don't fight to prove them wrong. Just step back. Watch closely. And let them reveal exactly who they are. Because sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting the truth catch up.